Greetings, I am Lies and I use she, her.
And I am Scandal and I use they, them.
And let's play a game together!
Alright, so we are...
talk about what might be a confusing plot inconsistency together.
Yes, either that or again, she's just being defensive and she lied to us to begin with so that she wouldn't seem as incompetent. But I'm also like, that would be ridiculous. If you had people who were in and out of your castle, they would all know whether or not you were asleep or awake. So her trying to pretend that she knows what she's doing to these people who have literally fucking watched her for 3 years be asleep? What is this story even about? This doesn't make any sense. Who is she basically trying to lie to?
Well, that's what I was going to say. If she had only just arrived at the castle and then immediately fell into a sleep, the courtiers have no idea who she is anyway.
Yeah.
And trying to pretend to be who she used to be to them, unless she knew all of them before the castle? Maybe they all came here at the same time as her, but she had them employed to her elsewhere beforehand?
That sounds weird.
And then they just picked their positions once they got here, question mark?
Right. Well, and I know somebody said, like, and specifically just Reckoning at this point that we've been talking to a little bit, where they've said that, that Nadia and Lucio actually apparently got married and have been married for a long time, but I'm again, like, so the big thing how we approach these games is what does the goddamn game say? If the game doesn't say it, I have nothing to go off of. And so far, the thing that I've been annoyed about is Nadia seems either obsessed with, I just got here 3 years ago, like, and then also with her sisters. And there's no clear definition for how long that's been, anything. She has no thoughts or feelings about how long she's either been married to Lucio, when they got married, how they got married, any of their relationship
how they even
at all.
met.
Yeah, how they even met. She sounds very like abnormal in that sense. Like, of anybody that I've ever known, if you're in a big, huge, giant relationship, even me, you're really like, you talk about shit that you did or didn't like about all of it.
And you talk about the time frame, like how you ended up in it, when you got out of it, that kind of thing.
What led up to it, what
But
you
here's
were doing.
also what sounds really, really weird. So, if Lucio died 3 years ago, and she fell into a sleep 3 years ago,
a sleep.
So he was living at the castle, she came here to meet him, and she passed out right after he got engulfed in flames?
I guess?
Because they say that the plague thing was all 3 years ago, right?
I guess?
And we're, as a main character, 3 years old, which we haven't found out in this route yet.
Yeah.
We found out in the game.
Yep, and at least Julian's are out. We're only 3 years old, which is when we died, when Lucio would have died. So she fell asleep at the same... I don't know. I'm not following this.
On the other hand, if she went into the castle but doesn't remember it, and so she does have, like, I don't remember being married to Lucio in this castle, not getting married, but being that way.
Yeah.
I don't remember him setting up his suites or his bedrooms, because maybe we both moved in here together 3 years ago. And then immediately after, the reason he threw a big giant party that he couldn't go to was because he was celebrating moving into this castle?
Maybe?
And
also, though, that doesn't make any sense.
No, because he's thrown parties for a long time. He loves throwing these parties.
I know, specifically in this castle. Remember we learned that from Julian's route?
So
She's mentioned going, we've had masquerades here at this castle before. How does she remember something that she just says she was just asleep for 3 years when they've only been here for 3 years?
Well, and also he would have had to been throwing them before that, so was he throwing them before she lived here? And were they married but lived separately?
I don't know.
The only other thing is going, when she says, I remember arriving at the castle, is she literally just being really imprecise and being like, the last thing I remember is a trip that I took out to the castle. I went shopping and arriving back on this bridge, but it sounded like the first time I was coming here. It sounded very like
to God,
when I arrived at the castle for the first time.
Yeah, I think that's almost like what she said, though, too. Like, I could swear there was something about arriving. We might have to go look it up again, but I'm like, this sounds bonkers.
Because, yeah, I'm like, it sounded like you said you had arrived at the castle for the first time 3 years ago, and if that's the case, had Lucio just told you, and the people just told you he'd been throwing these parties? But you sounded like you were there for them. So had he been throwing them somewhere else, and this was an annual occasion that didn't normally happen in the castle, and then you guys moved to the castle? I'm so lost. All right, lady. 3 years, to be exact. I only awoke 3 months ago. It might be a plot hole, but we're just going to skate right over it right now.
Because I have nothing else.
When I did, Portia was the first face I saw. So someone else employed her at the castle. She would have already been working there. And so someone else hired her.
Except that Portia literally says that, like, I think in Julian's
Nadia hired me.
Nadia hired me, and Nadia brought, like, hired me at this castle. I only showed up here. My God, this is so fucking confusing.
Hang on.
This makes no sense.
Unless it's like Portia wasn't working at the castle. Hang on, let's finish this dialogue.
It doesn't make any sense.
Portia was the first face I saw. As I understood it, she came to the palace a year before I awoke. But
she says you hired her.
What if she was? What if what she means is she hired me to the handmaid position and she was doing something else at the castle before that? But it sounds like no. She was literally like, Nadia hired me. Maybe the roots are different.
Oh, God!
What if they have different canon history from each other? Because you've made a different choice, it then affects, like, basically the entire thing, and now it's a different story. And so you can't actually learn the whole story from different angles, from different roots. What if it's just different? I thought the consistency would be nice, though. Like, that's part of the reason you do it, you know?
Right, because you're trying to learn all different aspects of the mystery. Now, if it's just a different mystery every time...
Or just a different story with different points each time, that would be confusing. All right.
Whatever.
She came to the palace a year before I awoke, and she spent most of that time by my side. Who would hire her to take care of a sleeping woman?
Especially when it sounds like they didn't have you intravenously fed at all.
I was going to say, does she have CNA skills and you were not magically asleep? And she was basically like tubal feeding you and changing your diapers?
Quite literally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was like, what?
And I was going to say, because a CNA is a certified nurse's assistant. And in America, a lot of them work in nursing homes and or hospitals. And a lot of what they do, is take care of elderly and disabled people who cannot physically take care of themselves. You lift them in and out of bed, you bathe them, you turn them for bed sores, you change diapers, that kind of thing. You do feedings, all of that stuff.
Yep.
And does Portia have a bunch of like nursing skills for taking care of that? Or if Nadia was in a magical sleep and didn't need any care, who would hire Portia to sit by her side?
I don't get it.
And if Portia was hired to sit by her side, was she hired to observe her? Who then had the agenda of hiring Portia to observe the sleeping countess? And was the job of just watch her, and if anything changes, let me know?
I don't know. And suddenly you'd be like, okay, why wouldn't I know this information before? Because it also could incriminate Portia.
It really could. On the other hand, if Nadia never asked why she was there and was just like basically from being asleep grateful to see someone.
But I'm also just like, you keep trying to present basically then Nadia as I'm controlled. I know a lot of shit that's going on, or at least I'm very aware, I'm very thoughtful and very analytical. And now it seems like basically Nadia's flailing around way more than she's ever been basically presented.
It also seems very much like, which of course would just be a reveal, would be the vulnerable side of her character that you don't get to know in other routes.
She actually really has literally no idea what the fuck she's doing.
I was gonna say, but the interesting thing is this would suggest that Portia's the one who's told her everything about everything. This would be the one that suggests that Portia is the one who told her, you've been asleep for 3 years.
Maybe, if she keeps talking, because I'm not getting that necessarily at all. That could mean anything.
Because who else would she ask to find out I've been asleep for 3 years?
I don't know. Let's find out.
All right. Most of that time by my side. When I first opened my eyes and saw her, I felt as if I already knew her. I was grateful not to wake alone. But were you aware of yourself sleeping, and were you used to not waking alone? Like, here's the thing. When I sleep, I'm not always aware of the passage of time. If it's a really deep sleep, sometimes I feel like no time has passed at all.
The thing is also she going, I was grateful not to wake alone because of what I then learned later. And then you go, oh God, I'm glad somebody was there at all. I didn't even realize how long I'd slept.
Maybe?
Like, because sometimes people will go and fill in, like, later of going like, God, I was really grateful that someone was there at all when I woke up.
That's true. Maybe because of what the circumstances there were.
Yeah, like once she learned other information.
Though less grateful for the missing memories I awoke to. 6 years spent in Vesuvia, forgotten.
What?
Okay, so you spent 6 years in Vesuvia. 3 of them were asleep in the castle. Oh, wait, no, those wouldn't be memories forgotten. So you spent 6 years in Vesuvia, but not at the castle before you fell asleep in the castle. That's what I'm getting.
That's what I'm hearing. What?
So you lived in Vesuvia, but had never been to the castle, or maybe they built the castle.
Maybe.
And the first time she was about to enter it, because she wasn't involved with the building process and had never been inside of it before, was when it was completed building? Maybe?
Holy fuck, this is not making any sense
So she lived in Vesuvia for 6 years, but she doesn't remember any of it. And someone who would have had to tell her this, and she'd have to believe them.
Yes.
Okay. And then she has 3 years, so we're talking a 9-year time span. Then she has 3 years of her life that she doesn't remember because she was asleep. Because no one remembers years of their life while they're asleep.
Or it is 6 years spent in Vesuvia, 3 of them I was asleep for.
Except for, again,
and then she doesn't remember all those other 3 years. I don't understand this. This is really weird.
So the language for me, I'm going, you can't have forgotten the time you were asleep if you literally are remembering now that you were asleep. unless it's somebody told me I was asleep. And normally I remember time when I'm sleeping. And so now I have, but since I don't remember that, I have forgotten it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember time when I'm sleeping. So that's me, unless I was dreaming the whole time. And then I remember, but I don't have like a sense of time. Whether I sleep for like 3 hours or for 30 or like 15 hours, 20 hours.
Yeah, sometimes I've been asleep for 15 minutes and I've woken up and I've been like, I slept for 8 hours.
Yeah, the thing is,
Like,
I have no sense of time when I'm sleeping.
Yeah,
that's wild.
I know little of what Nadia's talking about.
Me too, Corazon. Me
when
too.
I woke up from my amnesia, Asra was there.
Okay.
I don't know how it would have been if I'd had to deal with those missing memories alone.
How would
But you have no memories to miss. You can't deal with things you don't have. This is not how amnesia works. We talked about this in Hooligans Route. We actually, both of us have physically fucking known and interacted with somebody who literally was an amnesiac. Is an amnesiac. The dude could not, and at the time, cannot fucking remember huge chunks of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Huge.
And
he's not bothered by it at all. Who gets pissed off are the people around him.
And he has no sense of feeling missing spaces. He has no sense of awareness of it. And he said when he woke up with the last memory that he actually had, and there was no disconnect between it.
No, it was
He had been in a coma for an amount of time, but he didn't know that.
Yeah.
And he woke up from it just as if a normal state. Now, 1 point of data isn't everything, but since he was in an amnesiac ward after that, he met a lot of other people with memory troubles.
Yeah.
And he talked about some of that and going, the thing is they don't remember what they don't remember. Nobody that he had ever met, and this doesn't mean it can't happen, had ever been, God, I just feel giant spaces of time missing in my head. The only people that I've met that feel that way are people who are super stressed and have short-term memory problems, not clinically, but related to stress and depression, going, I can't remember names when people tell them to me. I can't remember what you said in the conversation an hour ago. God, I don't even remember parts of my childhood.
Me.
And I've met lots of people like that, but that's not considered a memory disorder or an amnesiac when you're going, right now, I don't remember a lot of my childhood.
The thing is you can literally be aware. I know I fucking said something. I know we somehow got from here to here because I remember the time before and the time after, and you get distressed going, what the fuck did I just say?
And as far as like childhood memories, a lot of what I understand is going, you definitely remember a concept of growing up. You have this smear of, I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old in these houses with these people, but you don't have specific memories.
Yeah, like I'm still going to say, I still find this particular point in the Arcana, while I appreciate that you could just take canonically, this is how amnesiacs work for them, it bugs me because that's not how amnesia or people who experience amnesia work. So the whole definition shifts in this one game to fit a particular thing that doesn't work for my brain because it's so radically different compared to literally everything I know about science.
And it's weird that they don't ever like take the time to explain it as something of going, a lot of this world is like our world, because a lot of it is. Mm-hmm. Horses are not something different than horses. Fountains are not something different than fountains.
Well, except for the fact that like horses for some reason have magical colored hair.
Right, but the thing is going, there's nothing else that needs described about them. They don't have like 14 legs and breathe fire. They're just horses.
Yeah, and we just have worms running around, and that's just normal.
But we explain that the worms look different than an earthworm because they have giant teeth.
Yes.
So then you get, as a reader, to know that this isn't a worm like you would see in your world.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And like, I'm just like,
I don't like this memory thing.
What does it feel like to feel like you're missing memories?
Especially gigantic swaths of basically information, as has been implied both times. Like, I'm sorry, like, this has never worked for me in both cases.
I just have a hard time picturing what that would be like.
Yeah.
Like, how does it feel to feel that? So I have a hard time relating.
I want to ask her what it was like. She glances up at me, some distant loneliness in her gaze.
That does not look like distant loneliness, but I will trust you.
I have to believe in you.
Some distant loneliness in her blushing gaze.
Sort of lingering.
I haven't spoken about this with anyone. Not even Portia. I've never told Portia that I appreciate her, that she can, that I really was glad that she was there. Any of those things, which is okay because she's your servant.
Oh God. And
I feel like Corazon would just be like, you clearly need to talk about this.
But we've done that before, and I don't
know if Corazon would persist.
I'm actually not even really sure, because right now I'm mostly wrapped up in my own experience of going, I am still annoyed about the amnesiac thing. Like, yes. I cannot tell you how much that There's a weird thing in fiction where they do it, and you're like, this doesn't make sense. This is not, as far as I've ever understood from reading cases about people who have amnesia, you literally just fucking don't remember. Again, the only people who care are the people around you, which is why I say, for example, that Corazon would be really irritated with Astra, going like, there's things you're supposed to be this certain person, and as time went on, like we talked about with Nerd, going, you have no access to what the fuck Astra is talking about, so it feels like this strange, basically, relationship of Astra, especially, as we could tell, going, Astra is in love with someone who doesn't even fucking exist
anymore
and keeps insisting that they must or that they would like them to.
You are them.
And also, based off of the previous one anyway, you goddamn died. You could be an entirely just 100% different person, actually.
A new soul.
Not even close. A new soul entirely.
And so I appreciate that frustration.
So I don't even know. I kind of feel like I should just pause this for right now because I cannot.
Sure. We can do that. Okay, so everybody, this is I really appreciate what my friends going through. And yeah, even when I was taking psych classes, there was a lot on memory and memory loss because it affects your psychology.
Yeah, it does.
And I feel giant swaths of my memory missing was never a thing in real life. And again, that could be a completely magical construct that is just for this game, but it's really hard to relate to, and so it's confusing. Anyway, for you guys, this will happen instantly. For us, we will be right back.
Aha! Be right back.
Okay.
All right. So we have made a decision.
We made some thoughts.
We have some. It actually did probably take us about 20 minutes of talking. So the thing is we're going to go with you can speak to me, because it is one of those things where honestly, like based off of what just happened, where Nadia has been largely going off and doing her own thing, and the assumption was that Nadia asked Corazon going, what should I do? What do you think I should do? Because I can't make a decision if I should tell, just test Portia, or should I just talk to her? And again, we'd already actually had that question, actually. Yes. So that's the second round of that question. So Corazon is already kind of irritated, going, you've already asked me for my opinion. And there has been this slow breakdown again over time that we've pointed out of kind of like Corazon going, I really did come in here with an impression of who you were and how basically active and proactive you were, and how much basically, even if you were lost and confused, that's fine. But there's still this thing of going, you are way more confused and way more at odds and way more flighty and insecure.
Less directed
than I ever thought you were going to be.
And so what I'm getting, and what I sort of batted around with my friend a little bit, is basically Nadia has asked about what to do with Portia twice. And the first time the answer was just talk to her. And the second time the answer was just talk to her. And the first time felt a little bit more like advice, but the second time was, what should I do? It didn't feel like advice. It felt like decide for me.
Yes.
And then when Corazon decided talk to her, Nadia decided to test her instead.
Yes.
Because
which could be just a misinterpretation kind of thing, but writing specifically a letter for someone that you assume cannot fucking read, that's already a test on its own.
That's what
Can you just even read?
What I was going to say is, if Portia shows up here, that's the test, because she would have had to read the letter.
Yes.
So inviting her to the fountain to talk isn't necessarily a test, because that's talking. But the fact that she wrote a letter to test her reading ability, to see if she could understand what it said to even arrive at the fountain, and I don't know what she'll do I'll do if she shows up, meaning if the test proves that she can read.
Yeah.
Then, so it's very, very strange. So we feel like that Corazon would basically be like,
just sort of assert the facts, the statements of reality. You can speak to me. Because sort of in that, like, because of course you can. You can do whatever you want because that's what you've been doing the whole time. And also, like, you don't even really seem to want or really desire me. I'm more of an excuse for you to have your experience on at this point.
And it's one of those things of, just Corazon going, you're going to do whatever you want, because every time I've given you, you've asked me what to do, and I've told you, you haven't done it.
And there's even kind of that level of going, like, too, where I pointed out when we were in Uriel's hut, of Corazon being a little bit confused, at least for me, if I had a character interjection point, that would have been one of them, of the character going, I don't know the shit that Astra does, why can you not respect basically the expert who's here? Like, right, I appreciate them wanting to go suddenly that your main character knows stuff, but as we discussed in the previous one, we literally have no idea what our character does and doesn't know. And so again, this is where the whole thing of you can play whatever main character you want is not, it's not.
So anyways, for anyone who is new to this, because we're going to be choosing a premium scene, we are about to enter premium cover-up art, and where we will basically meet with all the requirements of Nix Hydra's qualifications for our playthrough, so you will not see any of the written dialogue or the visuals in the scene, and we will ad-lib what goes on for you.
Yes.
And then we will resume normal game as
intended. All right, so you can speak to me, since this is the one that everybody gets.
Mm-hmm.
You can speak to me, and here we go.
And here we go. So Corazon
is sort of having an internal process, thinking about basically Nadia's experience of emerging from her coma, and going, man, that whole experience that you had. So basically your character at this point is going like, wow, that must have been like really intense, God, real difficult, all that coming together, all those circumstances surrounding, all the things also that she'd had in her life, they're all just poof, off in the distance. She has nothing anymore, and I cannot imagine that would be, God, so difficult.
Yeah, and Corazon is basically just taking a moment to relate to Nadia's position.
Right.
And going, if she's had this experience, that must be a lot of feels for her.
As I said,
real
mostly for the
challenging.
main character, though, not really for Corazon, because that seems really obvious. Why your character would reiterate this is beyond me.
Yeah, Corazon going, obviously it is these things.
Of course it's changed. Especially if she's going to be that obsessed, again, weirdly enough, like other people aren't. Like, our characters have been in this one of going, I don't remember things. Yeah, so why are you worried about them?
Yeah.
So the thing is, so this is genuinely a friendly thing from your main character having internal thoughts about going like, no, I want to connect with her. I want to share this thing and reassure her. I need you to know
Nadia to understand that she's not by herself.
I am here for you.
That she isn't by herself in this. And we don't say anything, though, except for...
And Nadia responds going, of course.
Yeah.
And then
she's like, so Corazon has said,
coming into it, kind of going, oh, yeah, I agree. Actually, that is true. That I can do that behavior.
Yes.
I can talk to you. Wow. And then she actually connects to the fact that your character also fucking doesn't have a memory, and it's like, oh,
that is a similar experience.
Similar backpack.
Yeah, we have
hat,
the same baggage, don't we?
Whoa.
You
amazed.
also have an experience like this, do you not?
And then Nadia collects our fingers, our whole palms and fingers all together, into her own.
The ends of her arms. And clasps them.
Yep, and then there are, she traces little finger, little patterns. Yep.
And it's sort of like the way one might do if they're doing like a reading on your hand, just drawing on the lines of your hands.
Little rubbing with her not fingers. Yep. All right. And then she says that she apologizes, actually, going, oh God, now I connect with you, going like, oh man, if it was so difficult for me, I cannot conceive of how difficult it was for you. And then she starts talking about her experience because she's trying to relate to you again. And she goes, me.
She's suddenly going, like, you must also have had a real challenging time. And then saying that her time was real, actual difficult, especially at the beginning, because since she, sort of didn't know anybody, she wasn't sure who to connect with.
Yeah, who to believe.
Or who to interact with.
Who to allow to be vulnerable around her, or who she could be vulnerable around.
And clearly, since as she has stated in this entire route, she's never been vulnerable with any of them, she hasn't decided since.
Yeah, pretty much.
In all of 3 months. When she woke up, she wasn't sure, and she's still not sure.
She's still really not, in our opinions.
And then Nadia says,
and she explicitly really does state, like the first 7 days were a disaster.
Was super difficult for her.
Was the most difficult.
And she had real troubles getting her bearings, and she was very defensive.
Also, I think this is interesting because at least this comment here says that explicitly she probably didn't trust these people enough to begin with at all. She literally has no idea who anybody is.
Then she compares the people, non-specified, to predators in the water.
The big Sharpie, the Sharpie prehistoric monsters that still exist in our waters and are actually very good boys.
The many toothed fishes.
Yep, that keep the world balanced.
I was gonna say, and as if they were, smelling, a leaking carcass, if you will, or a damaged individual.
The iron-laden body fluid.
Yep. I was saying, and so she's like, basically, I was super thrown off, and I was massively defensive against everyone as if they were intense predators.
Yes.
And I could not let those intense predators get the best of me.
The ocean predators.
And so she's not even like, I didn't know who to be vulnerable with so much as I saw all of them as predators, and I needed to be on my guard 100% of the time.
Yep, all the time.
And then she explains that she never felt like she had any support or connection with any other person at all. Not even her handmaid, who was mentioned before.
Yep.
And that nobody could understand. And that not even her handmaid could understand what was happening.
Yep, because she really did have these pure crystallized moments of feeling completely isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all the singular entity in the whole vastness of the land, of the whole planet, the whole universe. That was her whole experience.
Nadia, after having expressed this of there was dangerous people all about me, I was exhausted and confused, I couldn't let my guard down, and no one understood what I was going through, and I was just disoriented like hell. She stops, and she takes the end of Corazon's, arm, because, with where the fingers are, and brings it up to her mouth, and does the smoochy smooch.
She does.
She does.
She does, after this moment that she decides to take.
Mm-hmm. And then Corazon...
I think something's happening, is what I'm reading here. So there seems to be this implication that something's going on, and there's the recognition that something has shifted. Right. And so this is going like, I think something's happening, and then Nadia also, picks up her face from your hands and
changes where she's looking,
and changes her face to look around.
Mm-hmm. And so there really is this experience of Corazon explaining that when the smooching of the fingers happened, there was something that they could feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's see, Nadia just gets a really, really happy expression.
It's just like the sun emerging over the curve
horizon
of the earth, over the horizon in the early morn. Beautiful, brilliant, astounding.
And it just wipes away any negative or,
grieving
emotion of any kind. And
Nadia
Nadia's radiant.
Oh, except for so that wasn't actually a reference to something had shifted in the air. For some reason, actually, there's just an emotional shift that your character detects.
They are feeling something.
I guess, because then Nadia actually explains, going,
I perceived this character, Corazon.
In my sleep.
In my sleep, when I was having the visions while you sleep, I saw this person right here with me. And so she just got super freaking happy because she has had a sleeping vision about Corazon in the past.
Yes.
And then she explains that she was not confident that Corazon would be in the castle, but that she really was invested in them coming to it.
Yeah, she really wasn't really confident at all. Yeah, that you would actually go along with her idea when she showed up. Mm-hmm. Probably, I would guess what she's referring to is when she came to the shop. I need to see you.
I am curious that she came to the shop looking for Astra, which I assume was a lie then.
I assume that was a lie too, and that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Can you imagine, though, someone going, I've seen this person in my dream in so much context that I know where they work and who they are and what they do and who they're connected to.
And I walked in going, Astra!
And then I walk in, but I'm so uncomfortable or nervous about, basically knowing who they are immediately that I go, I'm looking for your master. You just lose your entire nerve. Instead of you, which she's come there directly looking for you.
And she really does confess, though, that she really distinctly, strongly desired that it was us explicitly that comes to the castle. Mm-hmm. And this is that she admires us, I think, in this way of being like, God, wow, it was amazing despite all of that. Like you did do this thing. And then also, you did it in such an amazing fashion. You ascended above all of my expectations, and you did so in a fashionable, amazing, beautiful sort of fashion.
Yes, a very quality, glorious kind of inspiring way.
Yes.
So she's like, you exceeded all of my expectations in every way, and you were more and better than I ever hoped for.
And she continues to actually praise you, going like, and even more so, wow, we have a connection. You actually feel me. You know my situation. You get me, bro.
You and I have an experience.
A full homo.
That we can share. And yeah, you get me. She says, I feel seen by you in a way that no one else could ever see me.
Yes, not even slightly.
And then she refers back to a non-distinct time when the sun was up, where the two of you exposited your deepest hidden informations to each other about
the times that we don't remember, except for the fact that this has never happened.
I was to say, I do not remember confiding.
This, I bet you, was the paid scene that we skipped out on for going to basically lay on Nadia's bed with her and avoid responsibilities.
Yeah.
I think that I am actually, if that's true, I am deeply irritated again because this doesn't work.
Because this says that the two of you have basically bared your souls about the amnesia that you have, and the fact that and the things that you keep hidden from other people to each other.
The intimate, quiet things that you really just are precious things you lock inside.
And I'm like,
you shared all this. I'm going, no, we didn't.
I have no idea when that happened, or other than it could have happened in a scene that we didn't do. And so what Nadia is really excited about here is the fact that the two of you have confided deeply in each other about things that you have never shared with anyone else and that you keep hidden unto yourselves, and that is what it is. And then going,
this doesn't work.
And then it wraps up with, Nadia had this enthusiasm, but this sort of desire, this sort of
she's starting to raise a flag. She's got that feeling burning in her chest. Just what the thing that Sun Tzu says is really important. If you're going to destroy anyone, you need to make sure you always leave this one thing left, because that way they will never fight you that hard, because they're always basically believing that they will eventually get away. Yep. You have to leave them with a spark of belief.
Yep. And so she just has this belief that after you did that sharing of your most intimate hidden things,
that's actually damn funny that
you were connected.
I'm like, this has never happened. And
then she says that swelling feeling of desire and enthusiasm and
this fluttering warmth that has been growing, that is this flame that has been lit inside of me,
would suggest that ultimately she would feel connected to someone, specifically you, and thereby no longer feel isolated. That you would remove her from her isolated and individual disconnected state.
Yes. And at least the main character here seems deeply touched. Especially while Nadia is gazing passionately at them.
In this warm, brilliant enthusiasm of, you have come and saved me, basically.
Yep, exactly.
And it has fulfilled every desire within me to just have you here and been more than I ever hoped for.
And your main character here also goes like, I have a thing on my lips that I wish to speak forth about. And then there is that pops up, because it seems like something will interrupt.
However, I feel like Corazon would be
Corazon is just like,
I'm listening.
Yes.
And going, you really are having this massive experience. And I feel like later Corazon might be in a space of going, she had a huge set of expectations about me too. Interesting how both of us were misled.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Which is really interesting. Nadia going, you will be the one to save me, and save me from my pit of isolation and whatever else, which is really unhealthy.
And you'll be the only person that can see me and understand me and connect to me, because I have this unique or nearly unique experience that no one else can comprehend. And Corazon then being like, that's a thing.
And then there's a ... because there is
we have finished the
scene. We both pause, growing silent as we hear footsteps approaching.
Hang on, you can't both pause. Corazon wasn't speaking.
Yeah, Corazon was not speaking.
Even in that scene, Corazon was not talking. We both pause. Pause from what, Corazon? You were already paused. The MC was paused as you can get. You were just sitting there.
And so was Nadia. Nadia was just looking longfully at us with this huge, please connect to my eyeballs situation. So anyway, we are out of time!
Yep.
So we'll have to find out who it is in the next one, though I'm pretty sure we all can guess who it is. But other than that, thank you for joining us!
Yes!
If you like what we do, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and also share our videos if you're having a good time with us. Mm-hmm. Please also feel free to go check out our Ko-Fi and our Patreon. We have some links in the description down below. Please also feel free to go check out, actually, the fact that we have a Twitch.
A Twitch! Where we stream at least 3 times a week.
Yes, but beyond that, I have been Scandal.
And I have been Lies. And it was great playing with you.
Bye!